comes Albert Pujols with his third attempt at trying to get career base hit number 3,000.
There's a flare out to right field, and there it is. Hit number 3,000 for Albert Pujols. The fourth player in Major League Baseball history with at least 600 home runs and 3,000 hits.
Just a tremendous milestone. What a career. First ballot Hall of Famer for sure.
Congratulations to Albert Pujols.
It was 2 years ago today, Albert Pujols joined very exclusive company by earning career base hit number 3,000. Welcome to a special edition of MLB Tonight presented by Camping World. Matt Vasgersian and courtesy of NTT Home Plate Cam, Carlos Pena, and Dan Plesac. We will be celebrating one of the all-time greats, not only for the next hour on MLB Tonight, but all day on MLB Network. So we'll start the discussion, Dan, with where you think Albert ranks in the all-time pantheon of some of the great players in the history of the game.
Matt, he's going to go down as one of the top right-handed hitters the game of baseball has ever seen. You could make a case, his first handful of years with the St. Louis Cardinals, he was on par to like the greatest to ever put on a uniform. When you're nicknamed the Machine, and everything about this guy was about hitting. And I think what gets lost, Matt, the bat spoke so loudly, but a lot of people forget what a really good defender he was at first base. And he could also steal a base if he wanted to, Carlos.
Yeah, man, he was really a complete player, especially those early years right there. And I do agree with you, Dan. In history, I'm sure that he ranks right up there with the greatest that have ever played the game of baseball. I mean, we can talk about Babe Ruth, Garrick, Mantle, and he's right out there for sure. When you look at the numbers he put up, and especially me being a ball player, you being a pitcher, but as a hitter, he had the holy grail. I mean, he could hit for power and average. He had finesse, and as well as that whenever he needed to hit for and hit that big home run and put the team ahead, he could also do that. It was like the complete package. What we dreamt of as hitters of being was Albert Pujols. And, he's the archetype of what we wanted to become as hitters at the plate.
So, we'll kind of kick off the discussion here with Albert. We're going to have plenty to talk about regarding his career, regarding Albert the person. We'll have excerpts from a really great hour-long sit-down interview that Harold Reynolds conducted with Albert in spring training just a few short weeks ago. But here, before we get to a break, it's an unfair question. Guy played over 20 years, still playing, over 3,000 hits, over 650 home runs. Is there one moment, one more so than others, Dan, that stands out for you that would be, say, his signature moment?
I go back to the National League Championship Series, Matt, 2005. The Houston Astros had a really good team, and Brad Lidge at that point was as good as any reliever in baseball. I'm not sure if Pujols was sitting on a breaking ball, but he gets a slider from Brad Lidge. This 3-run bomb, really, he had so many iconic moments, but this was really on a national stage. This was Albert Pujols' coming out party. Now the Astros end up winning that series, but that home run right there took a crazy Minute Maid ballpark, and it turned awfully quiet with one swing of the bat.
How about you, Carlos?
Yeah, that was a big one, Dan. But just that home run he hit against Verlander also in the World Series. I mean, we can go on and on about big moments, but 2006, Game 1 of the World Series, fastball up and away, and he just absolutely hammers it the other way. And it seems just like just another day. Verlander is saying, how in the world is this possible? I threw my best fastball up on the top of the zone, and Albert just took it the other way like it was just taking batting practice. Yeah, that's about it. It looked like he was just rolling out of bed and hitting, but we all know that wasn't the case. I mean, this guy prepares with the best of them and works extremely hard, and sure pays off.
Let's rewind a little bit. And a career that began with the spring training over 20 years ago, and it seemingly caught some people off guard. Let's go back to Albert's first spring training.
21-year-old Albert Pujols comes to spring training as a non-roster invitee.
Yeah.
When was the first time you knew you caught Tony La Russa's eye?
I think I would say by the second week, because I wasn't even supposed to get like any at-bats, maybe 6 at-bats probably.
Take me back to your first big league game then. How do you end up in the lineup?
It was a pinch hit. I think I got a base hit. Most of my at-bats were like pinch hit. I don't think I ever start again. And then because there were no plans for me, it was just, just a backup.
Give this kid a little cup of coffee.
Yeah,
He's going to be in the minor leagues in 3
for
weeks.
Greg Paquet, Placido Polanco, maybe in the foul field here and there, But then 2 weeks into, man, I got like 3 or 4 homers. I'm hitting 400. I'm leading the team in RBI. Like, just coming out of the bench. And Tony's like, okay, hold on. In 2001,
Let me let you in on a secret. Because Tony told me that the kid was doing so well, I had to get somebody, put him in the game to get him out.
Yeah, to screw it up, so I can screw it up.
Against the best pitchers, hoping you would fail. And you kept succeeding.
Yeah.
You messed up the play.
That's a true story, man. It's a true story because, at that time, 21 years, I didn't know. I was just happy. I think the things that really turned his head, it was the last 2 games of spring training. We are in Orlando playing Atlanta. Tie ball game, buddy. And I was the last guy in the bench, and he didn't want to use me. And I knew I was going to go down the next day. He didn't want to use me, bro. So finally, the pitcher spot came out. And there's no way that he was going to let the pitcher when I'm there in the bench. So he told me to come up. So I came and hit, man. I hit a ball over the clock. And Eli Marrero, we hit it back-to-back. We ended up winning the game 3-2. When I hit that homer, Tony can tell you that story. Mark was like sitting next to Tony. He went like this, boom, right in his ribcage, and told Tony, I told you we need to take this kid. And I think my wiring and Jim Gammon, those guys were like, we need to take this kid. This kid's gonna help us to win. I remember, I gotta share this with you because nobody know much about this, only Tony. I remember when they started sending guys down. So as soon as you walk in, my locker room is to the right. I was sharing locker room with somebody, with another guy. And now I'm walking in early in the morning. I didn't see my locker room. I was like, man, they sent me down, but what a great experience. So, it's so funny. I walk into Tony's office. I knock in. I was like, hey, Tony. He's like, hey, what's up? Come in. I'm like, hey, I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity, man. It was a blast. And he let me talk like for 10 minutes. And he didn't say anything. And then at the end, he's like, why you need to thank me and this and that? No, I feel like I didn't see my locker room. I mean that you guys sent me down. I'm like, what? No. So I came back out with him. My locker room was to the left.
You're with the big leaguers.
Well, the big leaguers were to the leg. You got Maguire, Placido Polanco, Jim. There's no way that I was gonna look, to the left because there were no plans for me. So my locker room, bro, is net to Placido Polanco and Edgar Renteria. True story, man. I remember that like it was yesterday. I look at Tony I, how mad he was because he thought that they cleared my locker and they just moved me just to keep a group together, And that's what happened with me. I broke camp with the team in 2001. When I ended up calling my family to tell them about it, they already knew it because I guess they had to submit the roster, for opening day. So I was the last guy pretty much that find out about it.
Well, from Albert's first spring training to his first season, how a rookie impacted a team already filled with stars back in 2001. Next on MLB Tonight.
MLB Tonight is presented by Camping World, making RVing fun and easy since 1966. Visit campingworld.com today.
Welcome to Game 3 of this 2011 World Series.
You only had 1 extra base hit entering Game 3 against Texas. How'd you feel at the plate at that time?
Well, I remember that day, I walked into the bus, and I normally sit in the back with Octavio Dotel, Rafael Fulcar, all the veteran guys, Yadier Molina, Chris Carpenter, and Wainwright. I told the guy, jump in my bus today, I got you guys. Like I knew I was gonna do something special that day.
And here goes one into left. How about 3 on the night in a row? Wow.
At the end of the day, at that time, I wasn't thinking about, being one of the 3 guys that done that, and I'm like, what? didn't get to me until probably after we were done with the World Series, you know, because we still had to win 2 more games for us to accomplish our goal, which is winning a World Series. And that's how I have taken my whole career. It's really special when you use it in that stage, you know, and especially in the World Series when you have millions and millions of people watching that game.
So many highlights in a soon-to-be Hall of Fame career, but if you want some long-form context, it's Albert Pujols Day continuing tonight on MLB Network at 7 Eastern. That game in which he homered against Brad Lidge, pretty sure that ball still hasn't landed. At 9 p.m., we'll follow it with the 3-home-run game, Game 3 of the 2011 World Series. And then at midnight Eastern, more recent Albert heroics, his 600th home run coming as an Angel, of course, in June of 2017 against the Minnesota Twins. Well, for Albert Pujols, long before there were all these heroics, there was a rookie season. Harold Reynolds visited with Albert recently at spring training and asked him to recall his 2001 debut.
So 2001 opening day, young Albert Pujols, 13th round draft pick a year earlier, standing on the lines of the introductions.
Pujols making the opening day lineup.
Opening day, bro. For me, I think, so I went 1 for 3, my first game.
Ground ball, Perez will get it. Base hit, Pujols, his first hit in the big leagues.
I actually almost hit a home run my first at-bat, and they made a great play in the warning trap. But then my next 2 games, I'm 0 for 3 with a walk and 0 for 3. So I'm like 1 for 9 starting the season. We went through Arizona, facing Randy Johnson. You know, Kurt Schilling was there in 2001, and then that's where I tear it up. I think I was like 8 for 14. We like
Schilling, Johnson, and that's
Armando Reynoso was my first home run against him. A little sinker up and in.
That ball hammered, and we have a tie game. For his career, big league home run. And after watching this kid in batting practice and that swing right there, it will not be nearly the last.
And here I am, bro, going into my 20 years in the big leagues, bro.
Long fly ball to center field. It's gone! A home run!
So you didn't just break into a team that lost 100 games looking for some young guy to play. You're breaking into a playoff roster club.
I'm in a championship ball club. I mean, the year before that, man, the Cardinals were only 1 game away from going to the World Series, you know? So I'm in a championship pretty much ball club. This thing is good. I mean, you're talking about great player, great starting pitcher, great veteran guys. So the way that those guys treat me back then, man, is like I felt right away that I belong there.
Well hit into left field. Did he get enough? At the wall. Welcome to St. Louis, Albert Pujols.
There was no pressure. Just go out there, have fun, play the game. I start hitting 7, then move 6th and 5th, and then little you know, I was hitting 4 and 3rd in the lineup. And then the rest is history.
That ball is absolutely murdered.
That's deep. Left center field. It's a gunner!
Albert Pujols just hit his 3rd home run of the game.
I'm curious the conversations with Tony La Russa, Mark McGwire. You know, even though you end up being rookie of the year and you had a big year, there were some times that we all struggled. There had to be an 0 for 15 in there. Somebody ever pull you aside and go, you'll be all right, you're gonna play. Tony ever talk to you about anything like that?
I think one thing that Tony told me one time, I remember we were in St. Louis, and he's like, what do you want to be? You want to be a 300 hitter, or you want to be a guy that hits 300? You know, I would go excited. I'm like, 300, of course, Tony, 300. He's like, rookie mistake. I think if you focus on hitting 300, because the hand-eye coordination, the power you have, you're going to hit 300 and you're going to drive over 100 runs. I was like, that makes really good sense. And I start thinking like that. I always say I'm a line drive hitter with power. If you look at from 2001 to now, I always say that. I'm a line drive, I got 600 plus 100, but I never get to the plate and try to hit 100. I mean, if you get in the batter's box and then say, I'm gonna put a good swing, I'm gonna hit it on drive, there is a pretty high chance that you're gonna do that.
At the wall, go! machine. 650th career home run for Albert Pujols.
330 homers. You realize you did that for 11 straight seasons.
I did it for a while, yeah. It was fun.
Such a humble superstar.
I
did it. That's right.
It was fun, man. It was a blessing.
Well, recalling that 2001 campaign of Albert's vividly, he really made an impact. Arriving as a grown man, his rookie ranks all time at 329. Batting average in 01, fifth best ever. And you can read all down the list. He really made an impact right out of the gate in his first of a 20-year and still going major league career. Dream numbers for Albert Pujols back in 01. Let's move on to the dream bracket. MLB's been executing this promotion all off-season and into the pandemic part of what should have been the season. It's presented by DraftKings. The best all-time versions of all these teams, every team in baseball represented, and we've whittled it down to the finals. The Yankees and Reds met for real in a World Series back in 1976, so I'll open this up to Dan and Carlos. Grab a horse in this race, Dan. I'll speak your language, and tell us who wins.
Matt, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine. You go down in the course of history, and you think of the iconic players that have played for the Cincinnati Reds. Joey Votto currently, Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, Barry Larkin, Frank Robinson, Ted Kluszewski. How about the bench guys? Tony Perez, Davey Concepcion, Jay Bruce, Ernie Lombardi. This is a power-packed organization. I think at the end of it, we're going to hear Marty Brennaman with his old line, and this one belongs to the Reds.
Dan, the Reds are a pretty big ball club, but I'm going to have to go with the Bronx Bombers, man. I mean, the Yankees, if you look at their just roster right here, just ridiculous. The history behind this franchise, the most successful franchise in all of baseball, Major League history. Lou Gehrig, you got Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, of course, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Reggie Jackson. I mean, if you see these two guys there at the bottom, I mean, this is a stacked lineup. They can most definitely go placata with the best of them. And then, of course, all the reserves, right? They're still legends in the game. I just don't think there's any other ball club that has so many, in history, so many great players.
All right, guys, let's shift it back to Albert Pujols after a quick break. We'll be joined by Hall of Fame manager Tony La Russa, one of the few who know Albert inside and out. He'll share his insights on one of the all-timers next.
The MLB Dream Bracket, presented by DraftKings, wouldn't be as fun without a little competition. Head to DraftKings and compete for thousands in prizes for free by playing in daily and tournament-long pools where you'll answer questions like what team will win, player performances, and more.
Welcome back to MLB Tonight, presented by Camping World. We continue celebrating Albert Pujols, and nobody saw more of Albert's over 600 home runs than Tony La Russa. The two spent 11 seasons together and accomplished a lot in a decade plus in St. Louis. And it's a pleasure to have Hall of Fame manager Tony La Russa on with us on MLB Tonight. Tony, I know you've been asked this a lot. We just saw in that piece with Harold Reynolds before the break that the career started in 2001 with an infield single. Surely it wasn't at that moment that you knew you were looking at one of the all-time greats. When was that for you?
I think it was a quick progression. First met him instructionally in '99. The guys there said, let's look at this young draft choice. He's special, even though he's a 13th rounder. The next year he's in Peoria, A-ball. And because he played there with Chris Duncan and Yachty, we stayed on track with what he was doing. But it's when he came to spring training, they were, the organization was thinking A-ball to AAA. And one of our processes were that when we had somebody special as a kid, we would put him in the hitting group with Edmonds and Pujols, Renteria, when they went around their stations. And so I would watch, and this young man was doing things that those great professionals, winning players, were doing maybe with a little extra as far as just the contact and the life off the bat. So I think we all knew in spring training that he was going to be a star sooner or later. As it turned out, it was right away.
Tony, it's amazing because fans do get to watch Albert go out there and do what he does. They've seen their career as players. We also see him, whether it was being an opponent or, for me, a little brief period of time as a teammate. Could you talk about his preparation? Because obviously the talent is through the roof, but it's not like he just rolls out of bed and hits, even though sometimes all of us believe so at one point. Tell me about his preparation. What did you see in his work ethic that made him so great?
Well, it starts during the offseason. As soon as the spring training, the season was over, he'd take a little time off and he'd get to work physically. But in camp, he would make this statement. This sounds okay, but he delivered every year. He came to camp and would say, I need to make this team. And every year he worked harder than the year before and smarter. So much so that we had some young guys who would come in, hey, Albert, can I hit with you in camp? And after a couple of days, say, I don't have anything left for the workout.
Tony, in your life in baseball, you've spent so much time around some of the greatest all-time offensive players in the game's history. Great RBI guys like Harold Baines, power hitters like McGuire, average hitters like Carney Lansford. Because Albert seems to be all of that in one player, I'll ask you the very unfair question. Where do you rank him in the pantheon of all-time greats?
He's the most complete winning player of any team we had because he came in with the perfect attitude. What can I do to help us win? We'll talk about the hitting, but he would play defense, run the bases, cheer for his teammates, everything. But, he did it the old-fashioned way and still does it. We were taught you play the scoreboard. If you're leading off the inning, get on base. There's a guy on base, drive him home. And Albert played the scoreboard every at-bat all season, and he would just take care of his statistics. So as a complete winning player, Albert was, in a class of his own. And the Reggie Jackson says, if you're in the conversation, I think Albert's in the conversation with the greatest players of any generation. You talk about Willie and Ruth and Hank and, going forward into our era, Albert's in that conversation.
Tony, I agree 100% with you. When we talk about Albert Pujols, we have to be talking about one of the greatest players who's ever played, and I say that very comfortably. I want to put you on the spot because this is going to be really difficult for you, I bet. So many great moments. Which one was your favorite Albert Pujols moment?
Probably the fact that he started the rally in Game 6 against the Rangers with a double to a left center. Without that double, would have been, if he makes now it's 2 outs, nobody on. We don't win the game. We don't go farther. But believe me, there are so many to choose for. I think they're all tied for first, but I'll take that one because it's directly to a championship.
I'll pull one out, Tony, from that same World Series in 2011. To hit 3 homers in a World Series game, as Albert did in Game 3, I would just love to know what was going through your mind after the first, second, and third. What were you thinking that day?
Well, if you remember, we were tied 1-1. It was Game 3. So, we were, the first couple of games, not a lot of runs scored. So, all of a sudden, it's Texas. It's a slugfest. And Albert had been kind of quiet once he got it going. The first one was a 3-run bomb that was very important. And then against Gonzalez, he hit the first pitch out. And then I've heard Mark McGuire, who was our hitting coach there, if you take the side view of home run number 3, it was a cutter by Oliver. That is probably the best swing he's ever had in his career, or tied for first with the best one. And when Albert starts getting on it, it's just the fact he's going to hit it hard. It could be a line drive to the opposite field, it could be a double in the gap. But if he catches it right with the underspin, it's going to carry for a home run. And once he got it going, he never really changed his swing. It's just the result happened to be, I think he had 5 hits, 3 home runs.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. And Tony, now you're reunited with Albert. I want to know, what does that mean to you? And then let's fast forward a little bit when Albert becomes eligible for the Hall of Fame. Do you envision this being a unanimous inductee into the Hall of Fame?
I think about Albert, and I get a warm feeling personally and professionally what kind of person and man he is and player. And coming in this spring during the abbreviated camp, I had the same. I see him, I start smiling because this guy has not changed. He's actually healthier than he's been in a while. He's in great shape. I'm a little selfish. If he retired, I'd like to see him retire. So 5 years from now, when I'm still around, I want to be there to get the chills when he gets inducted. You ask a great question. Will he be unanimous? And I'll give you a little tongue-in-cheek answer. Traditionally, with his performances in every category, he should be. What I don't know is there a metric out there that some mathematician is going to look at and say, well, you know, he's not quite a first ballot guy. And that formula should be burnt forever. He is a first
I agree.
Outstanding, unanimous choice.
Tony, if that guy's out there, we'll find him for you. Don't worry. We'll take care
Yes,
of that.
we will. We'll let him know.
Hey, Tony, we really appreciate the visit. Thanks for sharing some of your memories of Albert, and we very much appreciate your time. We hope to see you this summer in Anaheim. Thanks again.
Oh, so congratulations, MLB. You picked the perfect player to showcase. Nice going.
And more of that showcasing after a quick break. We'll return to Harold Reynolds' conversation with Albert and get Albert's thoughts on his return to St. Louis last year. Has a winter's worth of perspective made it even sweeter? Next.
MLB Tonight is presented by Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief. Works fast and you won't stink. The official pain relief cream of Major League Baseball. Home Plate Cam is presented by NTT.
Well, the Show 2020 Players League tournament is over. For a complete recap, and we're not going to play spoiler here, join us Tuesday at 7 Eastern. We'll walk you through how it went down and who was crowned champion in the Show Players League.
All right, let's talk about Albert Pujols real quick. What do you like in his game?
So where do you want me to start?
Playing with Albert is just it's another amazing experience for me personally.
I just take anything I can from that guy.
He hits for average, he hits for power, doesn't strike out.
He do a lot for the Cardinals. Albert Pujols is one of the best guys that we can follow.
He does everything.
Amazing career for that man. You know, such a special person on and off the field. Always somebody willing to help you out. You know, definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind and the minds of pretty much every player who's played.
And playing near guys like Albert Pujols, you can't help but grow as a hitter with time when you're around that kind of talent.
You know, it's preparation and, you know, the person he is. You know, he doesn't matter if he, you know, gets out 4 times or hit, you know, 4 home runs. He's the same person. You know, he'll always pick you up. Always, for me, can call him any time of the night, any time of the day. Not even baseball, just in life in general, just being a friend. He's, you know, special to have.
Well, to say Albert Pujols is revered by his fellow players is the understatement of the century. And for two guys, Dan Plesac and Carlos Pena, who were both active and playing in the big leagues at the time that Albert was dominating, I'm sure you have your head-to-head experiences. Dan, you actually faced the man. How did that work out?
I did. Actually, one plate appearance, he popped up on a changeup. But I remember before the series started, I approached Woody Williams, who I played with the Toronto Blue Jays, and we were coming off the field during batting practice. I remember asking Woody, hey, about this Pujols, is he that good? He goes, let me give you some advice. Walk him. I said, is he that good? He goes, I'm telling you, he's the best I've ever seen. So my experience was one plate appearance. It was a perfect scenario. It was a lefty-righty matchup where it was Jim Edmonds and then Pujols and then Tino Martinez. Was able to get the first hitter out, so Larry Boa kept me in to get Albert Pujols. I popped him up on a changeup. So Albert is 0 for 1 for me, but I'm going to tell you, Matt, there are some guys that when you watch play that you watch them and you see that you're looking at greatness. He had a presence in the box. He had a presence when he was standing at first base. You didn't have to be a great baseball savant to watch Albert Pujols and to realize this was one of the iconic players in the history of Major League Baseball.
Well, Dan, you know what? I didn't fare so well against Albert Pujols. My teams suffered his wrath, right, throughout the times that we faced him. I played with the Cubs in 2011, and June 4th, right here, he walks it off against them. Now, of course, I'm a first base saying, of course, this guy is an absolute monster, a machine. So it didn't surprise me, but I'm like, wow, I'm seeing it, everything that I heard of. And then the very next day, Dan, he did it again. 2 days in a row, back-to-back, walk-up home runs. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is going on here? I mean, this is just epic type of stuff, okay? And let me tell you, before that series started, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, I'm going to go see, Pujols. Of course, I've been a big fan of his throughout his career. He gets to first base, guys. And I'm like, man, how do you do it? I think he got a base hit to right field. And he's like, man, I'm struggling, man. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't hit water off the ball. He was dead serious. He's like, I can't hit water if I fell out of the boat right now. I'm so lost at the plate. And of course, I kind of like peeked at the scoreboard. I'm like, bro, you're hitting like 350. What are you talking about?
I want to actually have you expand on that a little bit, Carlos, because your careers began in the big leagues at exactly the same time. You too were a rookie back in 2001. You've been with us on TV for the last 7 or 8 years. And Albert's still playing. How has he been able to evolve and play into his now age 40 season?
Well, he's made some adjustments throughout the way, and look, consistency has been key for him. But not only is he talented, he also is a student of the game. And that is very important. Look, at the beginning of his career, he was a little bit more closed off. You see his hands up in the air, his back kind of tilted backwards. It was a very simple swing. And then he just kind of like went to the baseball. It was a click and go. Look, he was a little bit lower right there in his stance. Click, and then he delivers the barrel to the baseball. But then as he got a little bit older, he got his hands a little bit lower. Now he started sitting pitches a lot better now because he knew his bat speed maybe was diminishing at the moment. He's got a little leg kick, slightly open, and now he is sitting on that pitch a little bit up and in instead of looking too much out over the plate. Right here, slightly open. As you can see, the pitch out over the plate, he's still able to take it the other way. So not a lot of changes to him. They might have felt bigger than they look, but you see the lower of the hands and the slightly open stance. And Pujols has been able to maintain that type of production for many, many years. I mean, it's ridiculous how consistent he has been throughout all of his career. Really very difficult to do. Coming from a player here that, my career was not linear, guys. I mean, I had to struggle. It was difficult. And I have an appreciation of how difficult it is to hit. Hats off to this guy. I mean, seriously, Albert Pujols is going to go down as one of the best who has ever played this game.
And last season, 8 years into his Angel tenure, over 20 homers, over 90 RBIs. But the 2019 season for Albert was special for more than just statistical reasons. Harold Reynolds again visited with Albert in spring training and asked him about finally coming back to play as a visitor in St. Louis 8 years after he left the Cardinals.
So now Albert is approaching the batter's circle. Every single fan here is on their feet. He's getting a thunderous ovation as we expected. And they are giving him a hero's welcome.
What was that like when you went back to St. Louis to play at the Cardinals? Were you expecting that kind of ovation?
Man, it was unbelievable. Besides winning the World Series, I think I had to put that out there, probably the top of the list of my best moment of my career, man. I mean, having 40,000 people, just appreciate what you've done for the organization. And that didn't surprise me. I think I would expect it probably my first two at bat or the first day, but man, I took 14 player appearance and every at bat, including my little brother Jerry Molina, Waka, Hudson, and our pitcher just taking their time, and like just giving me that moment, man. It was something special.
Couldn't really tell from our distance here, but I think Albert was crying.
You feel like crying?
Oh, trust me, when I hit that homer on Saturday.
Albert hits it a ton out to deep left. He gave us 11 years of memories fans will never forget. He's just given us another.
And these fans want a curtain call. There it is. A tip of the batting helmet to the fans at Busch Stadium, and you just don't see them.
First time ever. If you look at that click, I went down to the dugout because I was gonna break down, bro. It was like, wow, man, it was awesome. It was awesome, and you know, I always say it. I was just a little boy, 21-year-old when I got to St. Louis. I left there as a man. Great experience, learned so much. You know, great success. Accomplished a lot of great things, but it's still home, you know. I still do a lot of things there through my foundation. Some of my closest friends are there, you know. Having Tony as a manager there for 11 years now, here working for us. I mean, it's just a great memories and great time to play sport. And, you know, I'm gonna take this moment again because I always do every time. I mean, it's the best city to play baseball, and it's pretty special. Best friends in baseball, it's unbelievable.
What a great weekend that was in 2019. How about some great moments in half-inning form? Epic innings presented by Flonase, Wednesday, 9 Eastern on MLB.com. This is really a lot of fun. It's an 8-hour stream of the best entire half innings in Major League history. 42 of them altogether. At least one for each team. Over 63 years of baseball history covered, and will feature special interviews with the likes of Steve Garvey, Ozzie Smith, Ron Darling, Jack Morris, Al Leiter, David Freese, and many, many more. Epic innings presented by Flonase, Wednesday, 9 Eastern on MLB.com. Well, for a look back at Albert Pujols' crucial role in the Cardinals' 2011 World Series win, and there were some pretty good half innings in that one, it's time for Doosan Winning Together.
And the Rangers are 1 out away from the championship. And it comes down to the hometown kid, David Freese. Into right, well hit. It's off the wall. Has tied it. And the Texas native, Lance Berkman, will walk to the plate. In the air to right center. This game is tied. Freese has hit 4 home runs this postseason. Freese hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
Albert Pujols has already gotten to 3,000 hits and 600 homers, but when we come back, Dan and Carlos weigh in on what statistical milestones lie ahead for one of the all-time greats. Next.
Winning Together is presented by Doosan. Doosan and MLB remind you to stay at home and stop the spread.
Welcome back to MLB Tonight, presented by Camping World.
So here is Albert Pujols. Pujols 599 home runs.
As you were approaching 600 home runs, what was that like? Were you pressing to hit 600 or no?
I would say yes.
Pujols has been stymied at 599.
And the whole reason I don't gonna lie to you, I'm gonna be transparent, is because I knew that we were gonna be on the road, and I wanted to do it for our fans in Anaheim. I didn't get to hit 500 in Anaheim. We did it in Washington, so I wanted to do it for our fans. So if there's maybe 1 or 3 or twice that I have pressed in my career, that was probably one series against the Twins, because I want to be able to do it and give that opportunity to our fans.
So I think Willie Mays is up next on the list. You've met Willie before?
Of course. Yeah, during All-Star game, coming through San Francisco. I mean, of course.
When you start looking at that, I know when you're in it, you don't stop and look at the leaderboard and all that. You're playing and you're caught up in it. I know people probably, what's that like? But you do understand history. And a grasp of it, you kind of go, man, this is unreal. It's hard to imagine.
Bless, honor. Remember, I come from an organization that is all about history. Stand-Man Music, Luke Brock, Bob Gibson, Ray Shaney. I mean, I come from an organization that has a lot of tradition. So pressure, I don't feel pressure. I believe, this is a gift, it's a blessing. I mean, when I see my name or when people tell me about that, it's like, wow, me? Really? This little boy from the Dominican Republic, that all he wants, it was just have an opportunity to, and now having my name with Mark, with Willie Mays, approaching Mays, Bonds, passing Bonds and doubles and hits. It's what? 3,000 hits? Like, it's crazy. Like, it's hard to unveil all that when you still active in the game. Don't get me wrong, I know my place in history. I don't disrespect it at all. I think people sometimes, the way that I go at it every day when I come here, they think that I don't appreciate. I do appreciate, but the thing is that the whole reason I'm sitting here and the whole reason I'm sitting on that level is because the way I went at it since I was a young little boy. And I'm gonna continue to do that until the day I take my jersey, and now it's time to look back and then think about numbers, and think about what I done. But
until
now,
then, it's the routine.
It's the routine, and it's still, if I'm healthy, I know that I'm gonna keep climbing those numbers. If I'm healthy and God willing, I'm gonna continue to climb those numbers. So why to try to get caught off right now when you are still playing? That's how I look at it. Those are stuff that are distraction that you can block and stay focused on what you want to accomplish. If I stay healthy, I know what I can do. Am I the young Albert Pujols? No, of course I know. But I know that I can be a threat at the plate. And I need to stay focused on that. What can I do today to get me better, to help my ball club to win? And that's my main focus. Those numbers and all that, trust me, Harold, I'm gonna have plenty time after I'm done playing the game to look back and to say, wow, amazing.
Well, we've talked a lot about Albert Pujols' life on the field, but when we come back, we'll explore one of his passions away from the diamond. Next on MLB Tonight.
MLB Tonight is presented by Camping World, making RVing fun and easy since 1966. Visit campingworld.com today.
Well, Albert Pujols is known just as much for his big heart as he is his big bat. The Pujols Family Foundation was founded in 2005 by Albert and his wife, Deirdre. It promotes awareness, provides hope, and meets tangible needs for children and families who live with Down syndrome. And one of the biggest fundraisers for the foundation has been the annual Buddy Walk.
Earlier, there were 4,000 walkers here for Down syndrome, which is very dear to Albert Pujols' heart.
Yeah, some memorable games in Buddy Walk Day. Was that a game you always look forward to each year?
Every year, yeah, because there was always one of those kids that would come to me and say, do something special or hit a home runs for me.
And they just had smiles on their faces, and hopefully the Cardinals will give them something else to smile about.
And there's a drive to deep left, and home run number 40 is in the books.
As you know, I have a daughter, Isabella, with Down syndrome. So that was part of my responsibility,
A swing and a long drive. It's going to go! Pujols has 2 in a row.
I think, smile, do something special that night.
How about three for Albert? Unbelievable.
By the grace of God, it seems like I was always blessed, in those days to do always something special and to come through.
And Matt Vasgersian, he's 44 home runs shy of 700. Don't bet against the machine.
I'm with you, Dan. Look, the way that he has gone about his career, not only what he's done on the field, but off the field, hats off. He deserves all the honor and glory that we're giving him in today's show, for sure.
What a terrific way to end our celebration of Albert Pujols. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later on this week for more MLB Tonight.